Hey, Scott Jordan and Mark Warner for the COVID-19 update, and it's a little bit different. Let's take these off, right?
Yeah, we're 6 feet apart.
That's right.
We're exercising social distancing, and our viewer audience is probably more than 6 feet away.
Yep. So we usually do this, so you see it on Thursdays, but today is Wednesday, November 11th, and for those of you that are watching this tomorrow, you must have gotten an email reminding you that the COVID video is up, but we filmed it today on Wednesday, the 11th, versus the 12th, where we're going to be showing it. So behind us is the Bullen booth, and we are broadcasting from the Bullen Broadcasting Studio, otherwise known as the BBS. So it's great to be here, isn't it, Mark?
It's great to be here, and this gives us a tool that we can use as we move into next evolution of our industry.
Yep, and we have been doing shows all day. So if you get in this Thursday morning, you don't have any idea that we've been doing a live show all day. Good news is we have live shows all day tomorrow and live shows all day Friday as well. And then there's going to be recorded versions of all these shows up. They're up now actually on YouTube Live. And you go to BullenOnline.com website. There's a link to be able to see the shows and how you can get to them and everything else. But very excited because we're finishing up today's work. It was a lot of fun. Got a lot of really good information out there, and I think it went really well, don't you?
I thought it went fantastic. I was kind of fascinated about how many of the topics that we talked about weren't things that we would normally directly associate with, say, COVID-19.
Yeah.
Yet, in almost every case, there was a connection where one of the topics we were talking about would have some interrelation with dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yep.
So that was kind of interesting that it wove itself into every topic that we did.
So this is the 30 plus show we've done specifically on COVID. One of them is almost ready to hit the 30,000 mark for views, which is very exciting. I think that's a record for the stuff we've been putting out over the years, maybe even bypassed jancast.com from back in the day. But so we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about what's happening, what's the new stuff, but let me bring everybody up to date on the supply chain issues. Great news, we got everything we want and everybody's raising prices. But we aren't, unless it's some ridiculous increase in the cost of the quat. Some of those higher percentage concentrated products, a price increase, even if it's a little bit, ends up being a pretty substantial amount, so we're reviewing that, but it just seems highly coincidental that the allocations seem to be kind of easing off a little bit, but you're getting price increases. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes you, that ship must have come in that we've been talking about for the last 4 months that has the special raw material in it.
Well, there's certainly reason to be skeptical, and of course there's another view that's possible too, and that is with the COVID-19 outbreak, everybody's had to ramp up their game. There's been a lot of internal investing going on in part of companies that are involved with manufacture. We certainly have done that. So I would guess that some of the raw material companies have done some internal investing to up their game to be able to meet the demand. So there's a possibility that this is directly related to internal investments on the part of companies involved with manufacturing. At least I'd like to think that.
Yeah.
And not like to think that it's for some other reason.
Yeah, and then the updates on the labels continue. They're kind of coming in here and there, but I think everybody seems to kind of gotten over the fact that, early on there was a couple companies that got their labels updated to say they actually were effective against COVID-2. Even though we still had the EPA N list that qualifies the products, I think people have kind of gotten over the fact that, hey, my product's got it and your product doesn't, where they all pretty much have it already. If you're on the N list, you already have it. The only difference is they've physically updated the label itself so it says it. But that's not that big of a deal. So I'm glad that people have kind of gotten off the big marketing thing that we were seeing for a while there, where people are saying, hey, my product has it on the label, yours doesn't, so mine's better than yours.
Right.
Yeah.
And all that started to catch up, and we actually predicted that back in the early COVID-19 updates. The fact that although EPA may change its regulations, what it approves, and so on, it takes a while for that to end up on a label and for that labeled product to end up being produced, shipped out to distribution channel, and actually end up in the hands of customers. So there is that time delay of seeing it on a label, even though it might have occurred some time back.
Yeah, and even after it's approved, then the label has to be submitted to the individual states where the product's registered. So in the case of California and New York, those states take quite a while to approve new labels. So even if you got a label approved today, you can't sell it in California or New York until they approve the new label. So in some cases, in case of Bullen, we've had to actually carry double inventories to be able to supply product to California with the old label while we're waiting for the update, and every other state gets the new label. So it's created some issues there as well. So, but that's kind of the supply chain issue update. So what else were we going to talk about, Mark?
Well, we were going to talk about the other updates as it relates to COVID-19 and the fact that in the news is maybe some bright light on the horizon. We were talking about it earlier.
The vaccines and all that. And I thought you had some very interesting statistics about the new Pfizer one that just came out that was part of Project Cannonball, I think it was. Cannonball to speed up. It's not part of that other one.
Warp Speed?
The Warp Speed one, yeah. But I thought the stats that you brought up were very interesting.
Yeah, so I know that over the last several years, the flu vaccine that we've all taken for the everyday common seasonal flu, many of us have noticed that it was reducing in its level of effectiveness to the point where it was approaching 15% effectiveness. And yet the question was, should I still do it? Well, yeah, you should still do it. But, over the last several years, that level of effectiveness has dropped. And part of the explanation for that is not that there's not a desire to produce something, but the fact that when you produce a vaccine, you have to produce it based on an organism that you have, a microorganism that you have.
At that time.
At that time.
Yeah.
So then you produce that vaccine, you run it through production, you produce enough of it to circulate it out nationwide or more. And at that point, 9 months have passed. And so your hope is that that vaccine then will make you more resistant to the new strain that is now coming out. So that's how vaccines generally work. So the news that came out from Pfizer, which was quite interesting, is that they're seeing a 90% rate.
That's a big difference than 15.
Yeah, so although it's not 100, in comparison to maybe what we've experienced in the last several years with flu vaccines, it's pretty impressive to me. Yeah. So it's kind of like it doesn't need to be 100% to be incredibly effective. I'm not sure that many of the old vaccines for traditional flus over the years have been in that range even. So I'm really, really encouraged to hear that. It might give us light at the end of the tunnel. Then again, there was last week's news.
Yeah, very unusual news. So you're the knowledge person of all things potentially awful, specific to viruses.
All things potentially awful?
Specific to viruses.
I'm optimistic. I'm an upbeat guy. All right, so what are we talking about? Well, I was actually talking with Alex Jardin a little bit earlier.
Who's behind the camera? Right,
we were discussing the fact that there's been a jump of the COVID-19, which is the form of human coronavirus, jumped into what's called a zoological jump, where it actually jumped, instead of from an animal to a human, like swine flu and bird flu and all that, it jumped from human to minks. Minks being, basically a small furry creature that if you stitch enough together, you can wear it as a coat.
Yes.
But the problem is, it jumped to them, so it's now jumping species, which is a little disturbing. We know that it has the ability to be contagious jumping within a species, from me to another person or you to somebody. But jumping species is another event, and the fact that it, was able to jump into minks in Denmark, it was quite disturbing. And by the way, that caused the country of Denmark to order the termination, actually the incineration of 17 million minks
That's a lot.
So I
That's a lot
asked
of minks.
Alex, well, how many didn't get incinerated? And he said 0.
Yeah.
So that is kind of an interesting comment, but it's not the most interesting comment I need to make. What was documented is that it is now shown that that COVID disease that infected the minks has leaped beyond minks back to a human, meaning that it has mutated to something other than COVID-19. So that's very disturbing because the Pfizer vaccine with 90% effective rate on COVID-19 may not be anywhere near as effective against what could potentially be called COVID-21.
Yeah, wow.
So that's a little bit disturbing. It's very disturbing to me because I know we live in an optimistic world where we're hoping we're getting to the end. But if this is in fact true, it means that our protection, our social distancing, our mask wearing, our hand washing, and all these things that we're doing may literally be how we stay alive and not an option.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is that, you know, it was 100 years since the last worldwide pandemic. You just finished reading a great book about the Spanish flu. It was 101 years from 1918 to the COVID outbreak in 2019 in Wuhan, China. And so 101 years, and that's, you know, what's worrisome is if this is jumping species like that, instead of being every 100 years, it could be every 10 years, it could be every other year.
Yeah.
You know, we do happen to know that Mother Nature stays a step ahead of mankind. And no matter what we try to do and how smart we think we are, every now and then she slaps us around to let us know she's in boss.
Yeah.
She's in charge.
Well, it's pretty serious if they go to the step of killing 17 million minks. And from what Alex said, they didn't even have authorization really to do it because I guess they don't have rules or laws in place to regulate that. But now they are kind of doing it after the fact. But they went ahead and did this despite that. So that means people are taking it extremely serious. That's not
that's
you
not
imagine
like
17 million minks. That's all.
This is called a zoological jump for a pathogenic microorganism to be able to infect a species that's, you know, in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
But we've seen it before. We all have heard of swine flu. We all know about bird flu, avian flu, mad cow disease. You know, all those things had the ability to jump from animal to human. So the fact that this jumped from human to animal, and then it's jumping back to human, that's one tip of the iceberg. But what it jumped to wasn't the easy thing for it to jump to. The easy thing to jump to would have been a pig, a chicken, which is all over the world. So, you know, some of the things that I think about as I was talking to Alex is that the fact that it affected mink, I am not going to be radically surprised to hear that it has jumped to something else that might be an easier jump for it, which would be not a rodent-like creature, but something more like a pig or a chicken, which we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that I think about, and it keeps me up at night, and it makes me very, very grateful to be involved in this industry where, we're actually helping because we're doing everything that we can possibly do to help fight this and to literally save lives.
Yep.
And on the other hand, I thirst for information about these things. It's always been something I've been passionate about, and you know, this stuff keeps coming in and keeps me on the edge of my seat. So I don't get drowsy anyway, Scott.
Well, and you know, we're sorry to not, you know, we have some fun on these updates occasionally, and this is a very serious situation, and we've tried in the past to really be transparent with putting out there the proper information that, as we see it at least, you know, with the germwashing.com, we've tried to ferret out, you know, where false claims are being out there. So we're just putting out the news as best we can and trying to tell people the straight stuff that this is the reality. I mean, but we're all doing a really good job, and based on the shows we've done so far today, we talked about a whole bunch of things that as you said earlier, relate to this, and some things that don't necessarily, but they are interconnected. So
my prediction now has shifted a little bit, actually, with the zoological jump news. It's definitely shifted, because other jumps will occur.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to think that some of the view of 2021 is that every home will have a upright vacuum cleaner, every home will have a TV, every home will have a dishwasher, a washing machine, and an electrostatic disinfectant spray gun. Because we're living in this world that is shifted.
Yeah. Well, maybe not the electrostatic spray gun, at least a good disinfectant. Yeah.
So I bring that up in kind of facetiously.
Yeah.
Technically, there's a lot of ways to apply disinfectant, from things as simple as a $3 trigger sprayer to cost-effective methods of doing schools, colleges, churches, synagogues, to wide area units. Certainly, there's a lot of methods out there, but I was kind of making a joke that you know, having a sprayer to dispense disinfectant in your home would have been thought of as being extreme a year ago.
Yeah, you're right.
And looking at 2021, it may be considered one of those things that's in your downstairs closet,
you're right,
parked right next to your vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
So it might be part of our world and forever, and it makes me wonder, you know, how masks might evolve. Maybe the actors that we saw on Star Wars wearing helmets and stuff might be, you know, the future look of society at large. Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, as Captain Kirk always said, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for tuning in, and if you've been watching the live stream all day today, we appreciate that very much. I hope you found it interesting. We've had a lot of fun doing it. It's a technical challenge. We started out this morning kind of not knowing where things were going, how it was going to work, because we'd never done this before. So we've broken some new ground here at the Bullen Broadcast Studio, and thanks for the people behind the camera. We got Nikki and Alex back there, and thanks for all of you watching. And we've got a whole day of shows tomorrow and another day on Friday, and then you can watch the repeats anytime you want in the pleasure of your disinfected house.
Very well put. I think, and my favorite part was thanking the audience. Your compliments, your chat messages have all been incredibly encouraging to us. So it makes us feel as though we're really on the right track, and we want to thank you for that.
Okay, well, we're going to sign off now. So it's dark outside. We're going to hop in our cars and head home and get ready for tomorrow morning. Another show starts at 9 o'clock on the top of the hour.